Both presidential candidates are on the campaign trail today, trying to win over voters in the battleground states. As Vice President Kamala Harris wrapped up her southern Georgia bus tour, she and running mate Tim Walz also sat down with CNN in her first major television interview since announcing her run for the White House. CNN just released a first look. Harris was asked about some of the changes she's made in her views over the years.
I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California, prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
Now, former President Trump has criticized Harris for not doing the interview live and for having Governor Walz by her side. Trump is also focusing on the economy, saying he wants the U.S. to be the cryptocurrency capital of the world. Meanwhile, his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, addressed firefighters in Boston at the same union convention where Governor Walz spoke yesterday. Now, we know history would be made if Harris wins come November, becoming the first female U.S. president. So there is a lot of Bay Area anticipation as we move closer to the election. Our Kelsey Thorid spoke with supporters.
To even know someone from Oakland is going to become president of the United States, it's amazing.
Cynthia Adams, the president of the NAACP Oakland branch and organizer of this watch party, says many of the people here never thought they would live to see the day where a woman, let alone a black South Asian woman and an Oakland native, would rise to become the Democratic nominee for president.
We probably thought we would see a man, but a woman, an Afro-American woman, before any other race. It's a blessing.
Dozens of Oakland natives and people from across the Bay gathered to watch Harris's historic nomination. Sisters Ernestine and Adia Harrison told us watching her accept the nomination in the town where both they and Harris were born is something special.
Being the nominee for one of the 2 major parties is a big deal. And so just seeing Oakland represented in that kind of positive way is something that I'm excited about.
Terry Wiley, the Inspector General of San Francisco and former colleague of VP Harris when they were both at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, told us he too is proud to see her rise to this moment. But he's not surprised she's here.
In terms of the hard work, the intelligence, the integrity, and just the dignity that she always carried herself with.
For Cynthia Adams, the feeling of this night can be boiled down to one word.
Joy.
And what does that joy mean to her?
That's hope. That is hope. That is hope. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I can't wait.
Still ahead, we'll talk live with a Bay Area professor about the political glass ceiling and about the unique challenges Harris could face as a woman and a woman of color if she is elected president. A lot of people are highlighting what would become a huge milestone if Kamala Harris makes history as the first U.S. woman president. And that includes former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who got pretty close herself in 2016.
Together, we've put a lot of cracks in the highest, hardest glass ceiling. And tonight, so close to breaking through once and for all.
And plenty more support for Harris came from former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, who each got the crowd going at the DNC.
America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
My girl, Kamala Harris, is more than ready for this moment. She is one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency. And she is one of the most dignified. A tribute to her mother, to my mother, and to your mother, too.
Now, one of the biggest surprises at the DNC was an appearance by Oprah Winfrey, who had this to say about Harris backstage.
What will it mean to you to see Kamala Harris take the oath of office as the first female president of the United States?
You know, everybody uses the phrase all the time that, means anything is possible. It will mean that the glass ceiling has been shattered, that the ceiling on any potential for anybody has been disrupted. There will be weeping in the streets, and I will be among those weeping in the streets, okay?
Well, not everyone, though, is convinced that the Harris Walls campaign should be dwelling on the historic nature of this nomination. On Face the Nation, Pennsylvania Congresswoman Summer Lee was asked if she thinks they should be talking more about that. Listen to her response.
I think that there is, zero chance that folks all across America do not recognize that she would be the first Black woman, the first South Asian woman in person to be not just our party's nominee, but hopefully our president. So to talk about it, it's almost a filler. I think that what they're doing and what they should be doing is talking about the issues, talking about the things that are not just unique to women, Black women, Asian women, but actually the things that make her qualified for the job. Her resume, the policies that bring Democrats to vote, on November 5th.
Let's talk about those things.
Focus on. We all know there's history here.
Joining me now is Amira Barger, professor of change management at CSU East Bay. Thanks so much for being with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you wrote an article for Fast Company about the challenges Black women, women of color face when seeking higher positions both at work and in Kamala Harris's case, the White House. We hear the term glass ceiling all the time. We know what that is, but you also talk about the glass cliff. What is that, and how is it held women of color back when it comes to those higher offices?
Absolutely. The glass cliff is a very similar concept, but it's the idea of precarious positions that are often given to women of historically excluded backgrounds, Black, South Asian, Indigenous, disabled, you name it, where women are set up to lead in times of peril or crisis, but without the adequate support or resources to really be successful in those roles. And we've seen it with Yahoo and a great many host of other organizations putting women in to sort of be the cleanup crew, if you will, to challenges and issues that others have created for our institutions.
So in this election, the term DEI has seemingly overnight come to have negative connotations. And it's important to note that many companies establish DEI departments to help and attract a more diverse workforce. Why has it taken this negative turn all of a sudden?
I think it's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, but it's also, we're in a global election year, right? The political polarization across many issues, but in particular, DEI has been politicized, particularly in the United States, as this flashpoint of the culture wars. And it's seen by some as divisive. It's disrupting what they have as traditional views, power structures, or even the status quo. And there's a misconception about what DEI DEI is intended to do. I talk a lot about the E component, equity, which is what confuses people most and where there's the most misinformation. But equity is about specificity, is how I describe it to people. We all come to the table with different needs for different kinds of supports, different kinds of resources. And the work of DEI is meant to create a scenario in which all of us can thrive. It's about equality of opportunity, not necessarily equality of outcomes. And I think that's the confusion here and why so many are pushing back, because they're fueled by fear and hostility towards something they don't entirely understand.
Now, earlier we talked to Congresswoman Summer Lee from Pennsylvania. She was on Face the Nation about the fact that the Harris campaign is not focusing their message on the fact that she is half Indian, half Black, and that she's a woman. What do you think about that strategy? Should she be focusing on it more, you think, in her campaign?
I think our lived experiences absolutely matter, right? They inform the way that we show up in every space that we enter, and there's a place for it. I understand the pushback, though, because of broad appeal, for example. So I think it depends. By focusing on issues rather than identity, you can appeal to a wider audience, including those who might not immediately identify with your personal experience or share a interest across topics. And that approach can position you as an expert in your field by emphasizing your knowledge and your skills, not only your identity. So I think there's a place for both, but I'm an advocate for bringing our lived experience to the table because it informs how we create policy, how we show up, and how we advocate for those who are on the margins.
You know, so far every day we're so focused on the policy and the nitty-gritty of this election. Can we take a step back here, and what would it mean to have not only the first woman elected president, but a woman of color, a mixed race woman of color? You know, is our country ready for this, do you think?
Absolutely. And if they're not, they're going to get ready, because I'm believing for this to happen. And I think former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said it best in her rousing speech at the DNC, is that so many of us have done a lot to put a lot of cracks, but she also said when a barrier falls for one of us, it clears the way for all of us. And that really emphasized that a victory for Vice President Kamala Harris in November would mean that women everywhere finally have smashed through the glass ceiling, and we can see ourselves in those roles and know that it is something that is achievable across every industry and every space that we enter.
East Bay, thank you so much for joining us. I apologize for the cough. But
thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, Kamala Harris is also representing the South Asian and Indian community. Coming up, we hear from a Bay Area supporter over on what Harris's journey has meant to her. Excitement over potential Kamala Harris presidency is growing among South Asian and Indian voters here in the Bay Area. Our Ryan Yamamoto caught up with a delegate from San Mateo at the DNC for her take.
What does it mean to you to see a South Asian woman this close to the White House?
You're gonna make me cry. I have waited 6 years. From the first moment I met her, I knew that this is a leader who leads with empathy. This is somebody who looks like me. This is somebody who gives my daughters hope that they too can aspire to the highest office.
Harini's journey to support Kamala Harris began long before this presidential run, where she began rolling out the support by organizing the South Asian community in the Bay Area, California, and across the country. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for joining us for today's conversation about the political glass ceiling. We'd love to hear what you think. Post your thoughts online using the hashtag KPIX. The CBS Evening News is next. Local news continues on our streaming service, CBS News Bay Area. I'll see you at 5. Hi, thanks so much for watching. To view more content like this, we've selected some videos that we think you'll enjoy. And don't forget to like or click that button here on the bottom left of your screen to subscribe.